walked away. You chose silence, and in those first moments it felt powerful. It felt like you finally took your control back, like you finally stopped chasing what never valued you. But now time has passed, and the questions start to creep in. Did I stay silent too long? Did they forget me? What if they moved on for good? My friends, this is the part nobody prepares you for. At first, no contact feels like strength, but as days turn to weeks and weeks turn to months, it begins to feel like a gamble you might be losing. And I'm here to tell you that fear is an illusion. Silence doesn't erase you, it does the opposite. Time does not kill your presence. Time deepens it. Think about the last time you heard a song that reminded you of someone. Even years later, it hit like a wave, didn't it? The memory felt sharper than ever. That's what silence does. It plants you in their mind, not as background noise, but as a memory that grows heavier the longer it's left unanswered. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist persists." And that is the truth here. They can resist thinking about you. They can distract themselves. They can run to someone else. But the more they resist your absence, the more your presence persists in their unconscious mind. Here's the lie most people believe, that being silent too long means you'll be forgotten. Folks, being silent doesn't make you forgettable. Being silent makes you unforgettable. Why? Because human beings cannot handle unfinished stories. Your silence is a question they cannot answer. Why didn't you chase me? Why didn't you fight like everyone else? Why are they so calm without me? These questions circle in their mind, and they circle harder the longer you don't give them answers. No contact doesn't close the book. It leaves the book open on the last page, with no ending written. And every day their mind keeps rereading it, waiting for a conclusion. Think of silence like gravity. At first, when you let something go, it seems like it's drifting away into nothing. But the truth is, gravity is pulling on it the entire time. Your silence is pulling on them, even when you don't see it. Every quiet day, every week you don't break, every moment you refuse to beg, the pull grows stronger. And eventually, no matter how far they pretend to drift, they feel the weight. They feel the pull. They feel you. And yes, I know it's hard, because silence doesn't give you visible proof. It doesn't give you the satisfaction of hearing them admit, "I miss you." It doesn't give you the instant validation you crave. Instead, silence demands patience. Silence demands trust. But here's the truth, my friends. Fireworks explode fast and fade into smoke. Silence is not fireworks. Silence is fire beneath the ground, the kind that burns slow, unseen, until the earth cracks open. Just because you don't see it yet doesn't mean it isn't happening. It is happening, and your silence is already doing its work. So do not believe the lie that you've stayed silent too long. Do not let fear trick you into chasing, into breaking, into begging for scraps. You haven't been forgotten. You've become unforgettable. You haven't lost power. You've multiplied it. Time is not your enemy. Time is the sharpening stone that makes your silence cut deeper and cleaner. And now, my friends, I want you to stop just listening and start claiming this truth. Don't let these words pass through your ears and vanish. Plant them. Make them yours. Take that fear you've been carrying, the doubt that whispers you've been silent too long, and flip it into strength. Go into the comments and carve these words in bold. Time makes me stronger. Not soft, not half-hearted. Write it like a declaration, like you're stamping it into stone. Because every day of your silence is not weakness, it is training. It is discipline. It is proof that you are becoming someone they can never erase. If this woke something inside you, don't just nod and scroll away. Smash that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because this is not just another video. This is your reminder that silence is not your defeat. Silence is your weapon. Silence is your shield. And time is not killing your power. It is sharpening it. Time makes you stronger. Time makes you unforgettable. Time always bends in your favor. Number 1. No contact isn't forgetting, it's remembering louder. You worry, don't you? You worry that by saying nothing, by holding your ground, by practicing no contact, you're fading from their memory. You imagine them laughing without you, living without you, maybe even loving someone else, and that fear creeps in. What if they forget me? What if my silence just erases me? My friends, that is the lie your fear wants you to believe. But the truth is the complete opposite. No contact doesn't make you forgettable. No contact makes you unforgettable. It doesn't erase you. It engraves you deeper. Carl Jung once said, "What you resist not only persists, but grows in size." And this is where psychology reveals something powerful. The absence of something, the silence of someone, actually sharpens the memory of them. Think about it. The people we remember most vividly aren't always the ones who stayed with us every single day. They're often the ones who left, the ones who disappeared, the ones who left a mark and then vanished. Why? Because the human mind hates gaps. It hates unfinished business. It replays unanswered questions louder than anything else. And your silence is the biggest unanswered question of all. Imagine this. You go to a movie theater and halfway through the film, the screen goes black. No ending, no closure. You walk out, but your mind can't let it go. You think about it on the drive home, before you sleep, days later, weeks later. You ask, what happened? How did it end? That's you right now. You didn't chase, you didn't explain, you didn't beg for another scene. You left them with silence, and that silence is the missing ending in their story. The more time passes, the louder their mind replays you, because it has no resolution. And yet, I know what you're asking yourself. If that's true, then why do they look fine? Why aren't they showing regret? My friends, you must understand, the mind is a stage, and people perform on that stage to cover what's really happening inside. On the outside, they act free, strong, untouched. But the unconscious doesn't lie, and the unconscious is where silence lives. They can distract themselves with someone new. They can flood their life with noise. But when the room goes quiet, the silence you gave them takes over. They replay your laugh. They remember your presence. They see your face in places you once stood. That's not forgetting. That's remembering louder. Let me give you another metaphor. Think of a song. When you play it over and over, it becomes background noise. You know the lyrics, but you stop hearing them. But when that song disappears, when you don't hear it for months, and suddenly it plays again, it hits you like lightning. You feel it deeper, sharper, stronger. That's what no contact does. While you're silent, while you're gone, your song plays louder in their head. They can't mute it, because the silence amplifies the memory instead of drowning it out. And yes, it's difficult. It's difficult because you don't get to see this process. You don't get a notification that says, they thought about you today, they missed you today. You don't get to see the way their chest tightens when your name comes up unexpectedly. That invisibility makes you doubt. But here's where Stoicism steps in. Stoicism teaches us to remain calm in what we cannot see, to trust the nature of things, and the nature of silence is this. The longer you're gone, the louder you become. Now let me ask you, if silence was really about forgetting, then why is it that people remember their first heartbreak years later? Why is it that certain absences haunt us more than the presence of those who stayed? It's because silence imprints itself in a way noise never can. You have already been engraved into their unconscious, and that engraving doesn't fade with time. It deepens. And don't think for a second that being replaced means you're erased. Rebounds are not replacements, they are comparisons. Every smile they force with someone new becomes a reminder of the one who didn't beg. Every laugh they fake becomes a shadow of your real one. Your silence has made you unforgettable because now you're not competing for attention. You're sitting quietly in their unconscious, and nothing they do can evict you. So, my friends, stop fearing that silence is killing your presence. Silence is doing the opposite. It's sharpening it. It's making you the unresolved story, the unfinished movie, the song that comes back louder than ever. It's making you unforgettable in ways that constant words never could. Hold steady, trust the psychology, trust the Stoic way. They are not forgetting you. They are remembering you louder every single day. And here's what I want you to do right now. Go to the comments and write this truth with your own hands. Silence engraves me deeper. Write it like you're carving it into stone, because that's exactly what silence is doing for you. Number 2. The mind hates unfinished stories. The human mind is a strange thing, my friends. It can live with pain, it can live with disappointment, but what it cannot live with is an unfinished story. We crave endings, we crave closure, we want to tie the bow, close the book, and move on with the next chapter. And this is where your silence becomes so much more powerful than you realize. Because your silence denies them closure. Your silence keeps the story of you unfinished in their mind. And unfinished stories don't fade away. They echo, they loop, they become obsessions. Think about the last time you read a book but never got to finish it. Maybe you misplaced it. Maybe someone spoiled it halfway through. Maybe the ending was torn out. Did you ever stop thinking about it? No, it lingers. You keep imagining how it might have ended. You replay it in your head, searching for hints, filling in blanks. That's what your no contact is doing right now. They thought the story would end with you begging, with you chasing, with you proving your worth. But that page never came. You closed the book without an ending, and now their mind can't stop flipping back through the chapters, wondering, why didn't they? Why aren't they? Carl Jung once said, "The greatest burden a child must bear is the unlived life of the parents." And in a similar way, the greatest burden in a broken relationship is the unspoken ending. What isn't lived out, what isn't finished, what isn't explained, that is what weighs the heaviest. They can smile for the cameras, they can run to someone new, they can pretend they've moved forward, but in the quiet moments, the weight of that unresolved ending presses down. This is why silence works so deeply. If you had argued, begged, explained, shouted, or written them long messages, they would have closure. They would tell themselves, "I was right, they still want me, they can't let go." And that story would be finished. But you didn't give them that. You took it away. You walked out quietly, with strength, and that calmness rewrote the story in their head. Because now, instead of closure, they have a question that screams louder with every passing day. Why not me? And here's the truth, folks. The brain hates unanswered questions. When we can't resolve something, our thoughts keep circling back to it like a vulture over the same ground. Psychologists call this the Zeigarnik effect. The idea that unfinished tasks are remembered far more clearly than completed ones. And you, my friends, are now the unfinished task. You are the loose thread they cannot pull free. You are the door they cannot close. It's difficult, I know, because you don't see this happening. You don't get to watch them pacing their room at night, replaying conversations, dissecting the breakup, wondering why you didn't react like everyone else. But it is happening. The lack of closure you gave them is haunting them more than any words ever could. They might have thought they ended the story on their terms, but your silence flipped the script. You ended the story with an ellipsis, not a period, and the ellipsis is what keeps them awake. So when that fear creeps in, the fear that maybe they forgot you, maybe silence erased you, remind yourself of this. The mind doesn't forget the unresolved. The mind obsesses over it. Every day that passes without you breaking no contact is another day their obsession grows. It's not your loss, it's their burden. Stand tall in that truth, my friends. Trust the power of the unfinished story, because while you may feel like you've been erased, in reality you've been engraved deeper into their mind than ever before. Now I want you to seal this moment with me. Go to the comments and write these words. I am their unfinished story. Say it with conviction, because that is exactly what you are. Number 3, the ego versus the heart, the hidden war. In the beginning, pride is loud, my friends. Pride is the first soldier that rushes to the battlefield when silence enters. It pounds its chest and says, I don't need them. I'm fine without them. I can replace them easily. Pride is quick, fiery, and desperate to prove it's in control. And when you first walk away, when you first go no contact, that pride cheers. It cheers because it believes it won. It believes you'll be the one to break, the one to come crawling back, the one to show weakness. But silence has a way of testing pride like nothing else can, because pride is loud at the start, but the heart has more endurance, and silence always waits long enough for the heart to show itself. Think about it this way. When someone first walks into a cold lake, their body shocks, and they shout, "It's fine, it's not that bad." But the longer they stand there, the deeper the cold seeps in. Pride is that first shout, the loud denial. But silence is the water. It seeps deeper with every day, every week, every month, and eventually pride runs out of energy and the heart begins to shiver under the weight of what's really happening. Carl Jung said, "You are what you do, not what you say you'll do." And in these moments, their actions speak louder than their prideful words. They may say, "I don't miss them." They may say, "I've moved on." But then, why do they still check your page late at night? Why do they ask friends about you when they think no one's listening? Why do they feel a pang in their chest when your name comes up? Because silence doesn't feed the ego. Silence starves it. And when pride is starved long enough, the heart finally breaks through. And here's the hidden war. Pride wants to forget you, but the heart cannot. Pride wants to say they didn't matter, but the heart whispers, "Why do I still feel them?" Pride wears armor, but silence is pressure, and no armor, no matter how thick, can withstand constant pressure. Sooner or later, cracks appear, and through those cracks, the truth leaks out. They still feel you, they still want you, they still miss what they pretended to bury. It's difficult for them because admitting they miss you means admitting they were wrong. It means admitting they let go of something that mattered. And ego hates nothing more than being wrong. That's why, in the beginning, they act louder, wilder, freer, because they're running from the whispers of the heart. But silence is patient. Silence doesn't need to shout. Silence just stands still and lets time do its work. And time always works in favor of the heart, not the ego. You, on the other hand, see their pride and mistake it for truth. You look at the smiles, the posts, the bravado, and you ask yourself, did I lose them? Did they really not care? But remember this, my friends, what is loudest in the beginning is often the weakest in the end. Ego starts the war, but ego cannot finish it. The heart always wins the long game, and your silence gives the heart all the space it needs to rise above their pride. So trust the process. Let their ego fight, let their pride cheer, let them put on their armor. Because silence is heavier than any defense, and one day soon that weight will grow unbearable. That's when the cracks will show. That's when the heart will whisper louder than pride can shout. And that's when they'll feel the full gravity of your absence. Hold your silence, hold your calm, because right now, without you knowing it, the hidden war is being fought inside them. And no matter how strong their pride pretends to be, the heart always cracks the armor. Now I want you to anchor this truth inside yourself. Go to the comments right now and write, "The heart always wins." Say it with strength, because that is exactly what your silence is creating. And if these words opened your eyes, press that like button, subscribe, and stay with me, because you are not losing them. Their pride may fight, but their heart is already surrendering to your silence. Number 4. Silence as psychological mirror. Silence, my friends, is not empty. It is a mirror, and when you step back, when you stop explaining, when you stop fighting to prove your worth, you leave them standing face to face with themselves. That is far more powerful than any words you could ever say, because when you are gone, there is nothing left to distract them from their own reflection. Every mistake, every harsh word, every careless action that once slipped by, unnoticed, now stares back at them in the silence you left behind. At first, they may not see it. Pride blinds them. Ego shields them. They tell themselves the story, "I was right, they were wrong, I don't need to feel guilty." But silence doesn't vanish in a day. Silence lingers. And the longer you're gone, the more cracks appear in that shield. And through those cracks, the reflection starts to break through. They begin to remember the way they spoke to you, the times they ignored you, the times they thought you'd always be there, no matter how they treated you. Silence forces them to confront it all, because there's no more noise from you to drown it out. Carl Jung said, "Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes," and silence forces them inward. With you gone, they cannot keep dreaming the fantasy that they were flawless, that they were untouchable, that walking away carried no weight. Silence is the wake-up call. It awakens the guilt they tried to bury, the regret they tried to hide, the truth they tried to escape. Every night when they lay down in bed, silence is the mirror beside them, reflecting back the things they'd rather not see. Let me give you an image. Imagine someone standing in front of a still lake. When the water is disturbed with waves, the reflection is unclear, distorted. But when the water is perfectly calm, it shows everything with brutal clarity. That's what your silence does. While you were there, your presence was the waves, arguing, pleading, reacting, defending. The reflection was blurry, easy to ignore, but now you are gone. The water is calm. And they see themselves with perfect clarity. And what they see is not flattering. And it doesn't happen all at once. It happens in small, relentless ways. They remember the time they ignored your call for no reason, the time they snapped at you when you only wanted to help, the time they made you feel invisible, even though you gave them everything. These memories trickle in quietly, like drops of water on stone, but over time, those drops carve canyons. Regret grows slowly, but it grows surely, and your silence is what makes it possible. This is the irony, my friends. They thought silence was freedom. They thought walking away left them untouchable. But instead, silence turned into the loudest mirror they've ever faced. And the truth is, people don't regret when they're distracted. They regret when they're alone. And you have given them the greatest solitude of all, the solitude of no contact. It's not easy for you either, because you want to see it. You want to know the mirror is working, but silence hides its victories. You don't get to watch them wrestle with their reflection. You don't get to see the guilt flooding in. You don't get to witness the regret building. But believe me, it's happening, because no human being can stare into a mirror forever without flinching. So hold steady. Let silence do what words never could, because words defend, words argue, words explain, but silence reflects, and nothing haunts a person more than seeing the truth of their own mistakes staring back at them. And right now, I want you to claim this truth with me. Go into the comments and write, "My silence is their mirror." Say it with conviction, because that is exactly what you are giving them. Number 5. Why rebounds collapse under silence. When they first leave you, my friends, pride pushes them to grab something, or someone, new. It's their attempt to prove to themselves and to the world that they've moved on, that they are strong, happy, untouchable. This is why rebounds happen so quickly. But here's the truth you must hold on to. Rebounds are fragile. They're built on denial, not connection. They don't have roots, only surface. And when your silence enters the picture, the entire illusion begins to collapse. In the beginning, they throw themselves into the rebound like it's a celebration. They laugh louder, they post more. They make sure the world sees them smiling in pictures with this new person. But here's what psychology tells us. Those who are overcompensating the hardest are usually hiding the most. Their laugh is loud because their mind is restless. Their display of moving on is big because inside the emptiness feels even bigger. And silence only amplifies that emptiness. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." That's the exact reason rebounds exist. They don't want to accept themselves. They don't want to sit in the silence you left. They don't want to face the mirror of regret. So they cover it up with someone new, someone who becomes a distraction, a shield against the discomfort of missing you. But here's where the truth comes in. The unconscious doesn't lie. The unconscious keeps comparing. Every kiss feels like a counterfeit of the one they lost. Every laugh feels a little forced, a little hollow. The rebound becomes a mirror, reflecting you back at them in every moment. Think about it like this. Imagine losing your favorite song. You know every beat, every word, every note. Then someone hands you a new track and says, "Here, this one is better." You play it, you try to enjoy it, but deep down, all you can think is, "This doesn't hit the same." That's what's happening to them now. The rebound doesn't replace you. The rebound reminds them of you. And your silence ensures that reminder never fades. Because while you're quiet, while you're not chasing, they're forced to compare. And comparison always turns the rebound into a shadow of you. And here's the part you need to understand. Rebounds collapse under the weight of silence because silence turns them into contrast. The new person might be nice, might be exciting, but the more they try to fit, the more obvious it becomes. They are not you. They don't laugh the way you laughed. They don't love the way you loved. They don't fill the space the way you filled it. And your silence only makes those differences louder. Because while you're absent, you're not gone. You're the ghost in every room they walk into, the echo behind every laugh they try to force. Yes, it's painful to see. seeing them in pictures, seeing them smile, seeing them act as if they've replaced you. But don't be fooled by the surface. Those moments are fragile. Those smiles are staged. Rebounds don't last because they aren't built on truth. They're built on distraction. And distraction always crumbles when silence keeps pressing in. It's difficult, I know, because you want proof that their rebound is falling apart, but you won't get to see the cracks right away. You won't see the fights that start quietly, the comparisons that turn into arguments, the late-night silence where they roll over and realize they don't feel what they used to feel. But it's happening. Every day your silence grows heavier, their rebound grows weaker, until eventually the collapse comes. And when it does, they will be left with the full weight of what they lost. So hold your ground. Don't let the illusion of their rebound shake your resolve, because rebounds cannot survive the quiet storm of silence. They collapse under its weight, always. Now, my friends, I want you to seal this truth with me. Go into the comments and write, "Rebounds don't replace me." Type it like you own it, because it's the truth. Number 6. The longer the silence, the louder the return. At first, my friends, silence feels like nothing is happening. You look at them and think, they're fine. They're living their life. They're not missing me at all. That's the illusion of the early stage. When you first go no contact, they resist. Their pride shouts, "I don't need them. I'm better off." They try to convince themselves, and maybe even convince you, that your absence doesn't sting. But silence isn't a quick strike. Silence is weight. And the longer it lingers, the heavier it becomes. So they resist at first. They push your memory aside. They throw themselves into noise, into people, into distractions. But resistance can't last forever. Silence has no deadline, no expiration date. And over time, the pressure of it grows. Like water dripping on stone, it may seem harmless at first, but it carves its way deeper and deeper until the cracks appear. That's when the pretending begins. The pretending is their second stage. They fake their smiles, they force their laughs, they post their new life online as if everything is perfect. They want you, and maybe even themselves, to believe they're unaffected. But the truth is, the louder their show, the quieter their heart. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." That's what's happening here. Their unconscious is restless. Your silence has unsettled it, and their conscious mind is scrambling to cover it up. And then comes the breaking point. Because no one, no matter how strong their pride, can live inside silence forever. Silence is a void, and the human mind cannot stand a void. It fills it with thoughts, with questions, with longing. Your absence becomes their unanswered question. Why didn't they chase me? Why are they so calm? Why did they stop? And those questions grow louder the longer you don't answer. That's when the silence flips on them. What once felt like their victory now feels like their prison. This is when you start to see the subtle signs. They check your profile, quietly, late at night. They scroll back through old pictures, looking for pieces of you they thought they'd erased. They ask mutual friends how you're doing, pretending it's casual. Maybe they even like an old post, or send a small, meaningless text like, "Hey," or "Did you see this?" But don't mistake it, my friends. Those aren't random. Those are cracks in their armor. Those are signs that silence has grown too heavy, too loud, too unbearable to ignore. Think of silence like gravity. At first, they believe they can fly free, above it all, but gravity never stops pulling. It pulls slowly, quietly, invisibly, until one day they realize they're being dragged back down. That's what's happening to them now. Every day you don't break, the pull gets stronger. Every week you stay silent, the weight grows heavier. And eventually they can't ignore it anymore. They feel it in their chest, in their restless scrolling, in their sleepless nights. That's why the longer the silence lasts, the louder their return becomes. It's difficult for you because in the waiting, it feels like nothing. It feels like emptiness. But Stoicism reminds us, what is invisible does not mean it is powerless. The roots of a tree grow unseen, but they are the reason the tree stands tall. Your silence is growing roots inside them right now. You just can't see it yet. So hold your ground, do not break, do not chase. Trust that silence is doing its work, because the return always comes. And when it does, it's not quiet, it's loud, it's restless, it's desperate. Because by then, they've fought your silence, they've faked their happiness, and finally, they've lost the battle. And that's when they come back. Now I want you to claim this truth in the comments right now. Silence makes them return. Write it boldly. Write it like you own it. Number 7. The fear shift. From you to them. In the beginning, let's be honest, the fear sat heavy on your chest. You walked away, you held your silence, but deep inside you were the one trembling. What if they forget me? What if they move on? What if my silence ruins everything? That fear whispered in your ear every night. You weren't just silent toward them, you were wrestling with the silence inside yourself. And that is the hardest part of no contact, my friends. The uncertainty, the feeling that maybe you've lost control. But here is where the story takes its turn. Silence is not static. It shifts the balance over time. At first, the fear belongs to you, but the longer you hold, the longer you remain calm and unshaken, the fear slowly transfers. Like a scale tilting, the weight slides off your side and crashes onto theirs. And suddenly, they are the ones pacing their room at night, whispering to themselves, "What if I lost them? What if they don't care anymore? What if I'll never get them back?" This is the hidden beauty of silence. At first, you feel powerless, but silence is not about instant gratification. It's about endurance. It's about lasting longer than pride, longer than their ego, longer than their pretending. And when they realize you're not breaking, when they see you're not chasing, that's when the fear begins to settle in their bones. Carl Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul." In the beginning, they distract themselves to avoid fear. They pretend, they rebound, they laugh louder, they scroll endlessly. But your silence doesn't go away. It follows them quietly. It eats at their certainty. And the longer you hold, the more they are forced to face what they tried to bury. The fear of losing you. Picture it like this. At first, they walk away believing they hold the key. They believe they locked you out, and they keep that key proudly in their hand. But as the days turn into weeks, they start to realize something shocking. The door they thought they locked is actually closing on them. And this time, they don't have the key. That panic, that creeping dread, is the fear that now belongs to them. And you'll see it, even if subtly, the little ways they test the water, watching your stories, liking an old post, dropping a meaningless text just to see if you'll respond. These aren't acts of confidence, these are acts of fear. Fear that you've moved on, fear that they're the one who lost. Fear that their silence was not power, but the very thing that backfired. And here's the truth. The chase doesn't begin when you beg. The chase begins when they fear. When their mind whispers at 2 a.m., what if they never come back? What if I ruined the only thing that mattered? That's when the tables turn. That's when their pride finally cracks. That's when the silence, your silence, becomes unbearable enough to flip the story completely. So don't fear the silence, don't fear the time, because the longer you hold, the heavier their fear grows. And when fear grows heavy enough, people act, they reach out, they chase. Now, my friends, I want you to seal this truth with me. Go into the comments and write, "The fear is theirs now." Claim it boldly because it is. Number 8, why they always circle back. And now, my friends, let's close with the truth you need to hold closest to your heart. Silence is not punishment. It's not revenge. It's transformation. It changes you. It changes them. And it changes the very dynamic of what once felt broken. When you step back, when you refuse to beg, when you choose calm over chaos, you don't disappear. You plant yourself deeper in their mind than you ever did while speaking. Because silence has a way of echoing. It lingers. It stays long after words fade. They may run far. They may jump into new distractions, into new arms, into new lives that look polished on the surface. But here's the part they don't expect. Silence follows them. They can be at dinner with someone new, laughing at a joke, and suddenly your memory floods back like a ghost sitting at the table. They can be out with friends, music blasting, and still one song triggers your face, your voice, your energy. Silence doesn't vanish with time. Time feeds it. Because the longer they go without you, the sharper your memory becomes, the more deeply you are engraved in them. Think of silence like an ember. At first, it looks small, almost dead. But the longer it sits, the more it glows, the more it spreads its heat. That's what's happening inside them. Every day, your silence burns a little brighter, a little hotter, until eventually it becomes unbearable. That's why they always circle back. Not because you begged them to return, not because you fought for their attention, but because silence made you unforgettable. And here's where Stoicism reveals its beauty. Control comes not from forcing outcomes, but from mastering yourself. You chose to master your silence. You chose to let go instead of clinging. And that's what created the magnetic pull that will eventually draw them back. Because when someone realizes they cannot escape your absence, that's when they realize they cannot escape your presence either. Carl Jung said, "What you resist persists." And that is exactly why silence works. They resist you, they deny you, they run from you. But in running, they only make you persist in their thoughts even more. And no matter how far they run, the circle always closes. Because silence is not the end of the story. It's the force that bends the story back in your favor. I know, my friends, it's hard to trust this when you feel the ache of waiting, when you see them smiling in someone else's arms, when you wonder if you've been erased. But remember this, time doesn't erase you. Time magnifies you. Time doesn't kill the silence. Time feeds it. And eventually, that silence becomes too heavy, too haunting, too unforgettable for them to ignore. That's why they always circle back, because no contact didn't make you invisible. It made you impossible to forget. And so, my friends, we've come full circle. You now see that silence isn't weakness, it's strength. It isn't absence, it's presence. Time doesn't erase you. It carves you deeper into their mind until your memory is impossible to escape. That's why they always circle back, not because you begged, but because your silence transformed you into someone unforgettable. Hold steady, trust the process. Your silence is your power. Now type in the comments, "Silence makes me unforgettable." Press that like button, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Stay with me. The story isn't over.